Afternoon all. I've had exposure to repeated patterns today. Firstly, someone on chessgames.com talks about this Lasker game played in about 1890, which is remarkably similar to Lasker game, Taresh game, which is remarkably similar to Nimzovich giving up the centre. It had D takes C5 and E takes F6 later. It looked like a very good play against the backward pawn. And it's funny, you know, maybe Nimzovich did actually repackage a lot of ideas he saw from game examples, but what he did was put it into my system, and it became a convenient framework for looking at all the elements and managing the elements of chess. So I don't know if we can say Nimzovich was completely original, but his putting together of everything was, and obviously we've got a great legacy from Nimzovich, you know, with the Nimzo-Indian, etc., named after him, and a number of ideas and terms which we commonly use now. But anyway, let's look at another recently occurring pattern, and it's Ivanchuk again, against the same opponent as before, where he had 3 pieces for the queen. Dmitry Jakovenko, 27-2-6 opponent. Ivanchuk's 2-7-5-4. He kicked off with D4. So we have a seemingly very solid opening here. Queen's gambit declined. So knight E4, a standard freeing manoeuvre. White exchanges the queens. By the way, sorry, can I also note that today, later today, 7 o'clock British summer time, I'll be broadcasting on the playchess.com server. There's actually an advert. If you go to chessbase.com, there's an advert today about that, so I'm really quite chuffed about that, and I hope many of you can join me later at 7 o'clock GMT. Anyway, sorry, let's carry on with this game now. So E takes D5. So White's got a small edge here, maybe. And Black's playing Rook D6. So what's the idea here? White's got semi-open file pressure on B and C lines. Is this Rook really going to switch over for an attack? Maybe against White's king? Well, White castles anyway. Then we see Bishop E6. So we see one of the points. The Rook is protecting C6, inviting Queen takes B7, because then things like this could be nasty for the White king. But the cautious Queen B2 is played here. There's another point about this E2 bishop being a bit loose here because of knight D4s potentially. So after bishop D5 we start to see this mechanism in conjunction with, say, Rook G6. Look at this, coordinate pressure both on G2 and maybe on E2. So Rook FC1, as if nothing's up yet. Rook E8, intensifying the potential pressure now. And White seemingly asks Black to land a tactical blow now with knight E1. If White can get in bishop F3, then he's removed this tactical liability, this bishop, on this file. So, but is there knight takes D4 here? Well, that's the question, because if Queen takes, then it looks as though bishop G2 is tearing apart the White king side and attacking the Queen. So Black plays this. He's tempted to play this here. Maybe, you know, a computer move, I think, is like I think B6 has been suggested. So actually, from a computer evaluation, this looks as though this should theoretically be better for White, because it's after this knight takes D4, we have the repeat of the pattern that I mentioned. You know, I'm seeing repeating patterns today, so it's remarkable to see this game. Because White is able now to sacrifice the Queen again for 3 pieces. So bishop takes G2, and Ivanchuk simply here plays Queen takes D6. So he's ending up with this curious imbalance again that we've seen in the previous video. 3 pieces for the Queen. So White, in theory, might have a material advantage, but we need to also factor in the pawns. Black's got 2 extra pawns, so let's do a mathematical count. 10 plus 5, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay, 5, 10, let's say 13 for the bishop, and give the knight 3 to be generous. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. In fact, from our count, Black's up by 1. Okay, but White needs to get coordinated. He's got major coordination issues, but it seems Ivanchuk's getting quite expert at this. first he starts from a base plateau, so he's put all his pieces on the same row. That's a key ingredient here, so obviously playing this sort of position. Next is to try and improve the positions of the knight and bishop. So we have the knight becoming nicely put on f4, supported by this h4, so to try and discourage g5s from black. So these two minor pieces are improving, with the support of the king as well, with the king coming to g3. So the bishop now improves slightly. Now the rooks try and step up a gear to go to the third rank, or probe b7. So b7's been probed. And then we have restraints strategy, restraints against black's queen side. Black's pawns are starting to be fixed now, especially after this a5, fixing b6. So black's starting to be paralysed on the queen side. Now another little manoeuvring, the knight probing, coming to g5, probing that f7. It's as if the bishop's going to join an attack on f7 potentially. It encourages f6 from black, another concession. So knight e4, the knight's even better posted maybe than on f4. But what happens now? Bishop f3. Now the knight actually comes back. So what's going on here? Well, the rooks can make headway now. White's got control over the e4 square here, so the rooks can invade via the b4 square. If they can both come in via d4 and e4, then they can come in like this later and start attacking these weaknesses which have been provoked from earlier moves. So this is the pattern, it seems. The rooks start infiltrating. First, after the knight goes back to f4, maybe this is all gaining a bit of time on the clock as well. And now look, the rook infiltration. So one rook on e4, and the other rook's going to join it very soon. So rook d3 offering an exchange of queens wouldn't be very good for black, but this allows now rook d6. So both rooks have infiltrated. Beautiful. d6 and e6. So f6 is under fire, but g6 is also vulnerable. As we'll see, the knight and bishop can coordinate on g6. So this next move, after the sacrifice of a5, bishop d3, how does black defend this? He's starting to be dismantled now after bishop takes g6, because now there's the beautiful knight takes h5, offering a bishop and knight to weave a mating net. Let's have a look at this line. So if king takes g6 happened, check, check, f3 check, and now nice rook h5. So the rook's covering all the squares. Black's king gets mated there. So let's go back. So knight takes h5. Actually, king h6 was played, but we can see that it's all over now. That these pieces are all over the black king. Rook takes f6. It needs high precision play though, inviting the check, but the check's harmless. Knight g3 with an immediate threat of maybe like f3 followed by knight f5 would be mating. So king g7, but now rook d6. Again, huge threat though of f3 and knight f5. The queen can't take obviously knight f5. So the king tries to flee, but now the h pawn is really dangerous. h5, and now finally the final move of the game actually, bishop f5. It's hopeless here. Where can the queen go? There's rook d7 coming next. And let's stick on engine to see some variations here in the final position though. Alright, so say the queen moves h4. Rook check. Rook takes b7. Let's say a5. Bishop e6. Check. It seems black's pretty dire here. But where's the finish? Maybe just black gets munched. Rook takes a5. And we see maybe the pawns coming up with f4. So overall these pawns are just going to be overwhelming, I think. And the black queen's just retreating in this line. Okay, so it's not so clear cut. It's a lot more of a long-term thing that black's just going downhill, losing lots of pawns. So let's go back and have a look at the game in overview and summary. So standard solid black defense, and it seems black had some prospects with tactical liabilities here, namely e2, g2. So he built up pressure on these points indirectly using that semi-open e-file pressure, about to intensify it. But then after knight takes d4, tried maybe too quickly to cash in on these factors. So bishop takes g2. If the queen had moved, this is far too dangerous, isn't it? Because queen moves. Let's check this actually, because rook g6, knight g2. I'm not wholeheartedly convinced. So in this position, just bishop c6, okay, because then rook g6 is coming in, and this is better for black technically. So say bishop f3. This could be looking slightly bad now. Rook g6, f4, queen g4 with pressure for black. So this is the sort of position Ivanchuk didn't want. So he goes in for the queen sack again, like in their previous encounter, and a nice consolidation, instructive consolidation. So he's really rewriting or writing the middle game book on how to play with 3 pieces against the queen with these examples. If anyone wants an example of such a material imbalance, I mean, firstly there was the provocation of weaknesses on the king side, and then the infiltration of the rooks via b4. I think is quite instructive, just getting all the pieces in, slowly increasing their pressure until the pawn starting to win pawns, and then the final sort of decisive bishop f5 here. That black's decided he had enough. Comments or questions on YouTube, and maybe see you later at 7 o'clock British Summer Time. That's if you're in the UK, 7 o'clock. Otherwise 8 o'clock GMT. Thanks very much.